Hi, and welcome to the Disappearing Scar. Today we're going to talk about our emotions, or more specifically, my emotions. By now, you should know that I am having surgery, and at this point, it's less than 48 hours. So it seems like an appropriate time to talk about what's going on inside my head on a non-mechanical level. So the question I get frequently from friends, family, how are you coping with this? What's going through your mind? How do you deal with something like this? And the short answer is that there's a lot going on in my mind, but for me, there's always a lot going on in my mind, so that's nothing new. But when faced with something potentially life-altering or possibly even life-ending in the worst-case scenario, I feel like most people tend to fall into two categories. The first is those who lose sight of everything, who are completely engulfed by this shocking news, and for the most part, are become a miserable wreck. They don't want to go out. They don't want to do anything. It seems like they're resigned to the worst case scenario. On the other hand, there are those who seem to have completely ignored the potential ramifications of a surgery like this, and while that kind of ignorant bliss may seem better, I think without really acknowledging and understanding the risks and the possible things that could go wrong with a surgery like this, you're kind of selling it short, and I don't think it's really proper to do that either. So by contrast, what I've tried to do is to understand and respect the potential complications. None of them are likely to occur, but it's entirely possible that while I'm under, there will be a stroke, a hemorrhage, loss of vision, loss of cognitive function. It's or worse. And then that being said, you can't let that rule your life. And I've tried to do my best to live my life, the way that I've always lived it, and to make sure that I get the most out of it, knowing that something could go wrong. But on the other hand, you don't want to be the guy who winds up in surgery 2 weeks early because he went out cliff diving for the first time and it didn't go so well. So for me, I've tried to live, the way that I normally live, but maybe a little bit better. So how do you stay afloat while you're dealing with something like this? Well, you have to have faith. And I realize that's maybe a bit of a cop-out, maybe overly simplified, but really that's what it boils down to. You have to have faith in your surgeon. You have to know that he's well equipped to get you healthy again. That's his job. And whether or not he's sitting there coddling you and answering your phone calls every day, that's at the end of the day, you have to know that he's going to be the guy who's going to fix you. And if you don't have that comfort, that faith, then you need to find yourself a different surgeon. For me, I'm going to one of the best surgeons in the world in one of the best hospitals in the world, and I have complete faith in him. I know that he has helped people in much worse shape than me live through much worse things. So, I have very little issue with that. And so I think for that's made me a lot more comfortable going through this process. And I fully expect that when they take me out to put me under, I'm not going to have any regret or fear. Just an understanding that I have the best chance possible to be successful, and I think that makes it much easier. On the more spiritual side of things, I think for someone like me who's young and otherwise healthy and has a lot of plans and ideas and things for what they want to do, I think you have to believe that God isn't done with you yet. Whether you're super religious or not religious at all, as long as you believe that there is a God, I think you have to hope that He wants something more out of you than to end your days on some bed somewhere, not having any idea of what's happened. Um, there's a passage in the Bible that says that the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ. And while I don't necessarily disagree with that, I think it overlooks what, to me, is perhaps a greater gift, and that is our acute awareness of our own mortality. Life is short. Death is inevitable. We have a finite time here to live, to love, to laugh. All those tricky little sayings that they have out there. and to make a difference, to make something of yourself. I think, in our culture today, it's very easy to settle for mediocrity. It's very easy to just take the job that's not going to ask too much of you and pays you enough so that you can put your feet up at night and not look for anything more. And I think for me, this whole experience has kind of opened my eyes to my own faults and the fact that I think that really I could be doing more. I could be more successful. I could be doing things on a much grander scale. And I think what helps keep me going is that I know that I've already begun to set up things for what I'm going to do afterwards. This is step one of many steps in how I'm going to make the most of my life after this, and how I'm not going to settle for just being okay, or just having enough money, or changing some small aspect of something. I think that I'm capable of doing much more, and I think when you're face to face with your own possible demise, even though it's unlikely, I think you recognize what you're capable of. And for me, hopefully this will wind up being a blessing, and the thing that makes me capable of reaching all those goals that I have, lofty as they may be. So, with that said, this is probably the last you'll see of me before the operation. My wonderful hair may not be in as pretty a state as you see it now, um, but I hope you all keep following me. This is step one, and I hope I'll be able to show you all the other steps afterwards. So keep looking for updates. Either I or someone in my family will hopefully keep people abreast of the situation. How I'm doing, whether everything went well, when I'll be able to go home, all those kinds of things. And just keep in mind, we've only got so much time here. Make sure you don't waste it. Thanks.